Hey Islanders, and welcome to episode 17 of the Camano Voice. On this episode, I speak to the volunteer and outreach director for N.O.A.H Center. Please welcome Paige Schmelzer. Hi, I'm Brandon Erickson, and you're listening to the Camano Voice podcast, where I interview folks around Camano Island and beyond. If you want to stay up to date on events, businesses, and even hear a little history of this area, subscribe to this podcast and share with your friends. Thanks for listening. Hey Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice, where we release a new episode every Tuesday. On this episode, I speak with Paige, who is the outreach director for the N.O.A.H Center, and her history with animal welfare and her experience in that field is pretty big spanning, and we get into all things animals in this episode. So if you are an animal lover, this episode is for you. She actually got a job at the Woodland Park Zoo when she was only 16 years old. After leaving there, she moved to Camano, where she became a mom and then a foster for the N.O.A.H Center, and eventually became the outreach director. Like I said, we span all over the place. We also dig into some tips of like how to deal with feral cats and the best way to work around them and to work with them, and all sorts of other things. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Paige Schmelzer. Hey, Paige, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Much appreciated.
So before we jump into everything, tell us a little bit about Paige.
So my name is Paige Schmelzer. I am the volunteer and outreach director for the N.O.A.H Center, which is based out of Stanwood, Washington, and it's a fantastic organization. But I'm also a 20-year Camano Island resident, not cool. Born and raised in Camano, but born and raised in Washington State, based out of Everett, and went to Cascade High School. And I have been here, like I said, for 20 years. It was my first home that I purchased out here when we were looking out 20 years ago when the rates were pretty good.
And didn't want to move to Everett? No. Couldn't afford Mill Creek, where technically I was based out of. Yep. But I went to Cascade before Jackson High was built. And there's my age. And it was a fantastic area out here. And we found a place that we fell in love with on the south end as well. Hey, what up, South Enders? And we've been there ever since. And since I've had my daughter, who's 6, and she goes to Elder Bay. So what up, Elder Bay also. All right, very cool. So starting with Camano then, what actually brought you to Camano?
Besides the awesome home that we found and the fantastic mortgage rate, we really liked the community. It took me a while to have my daughter, but when I finally did, I really liked the school and community base that's out here. It's grown quite a bit. When I moved on the island, there was one light, and now there's a couple. Mm-hmm. There also was no subway. That was big news when it happened, and it's definitely grown, but we really love the community, and I wouldn't think of moving anywhere else. I'm staying here for life. So
yeah, no, that's kind of the general feel I get from people as I'm speaking with them. So
yes.
All right. So tell us about your animal welfare background.
So I, being based out of Mill Creek, the only thing at that point that I could do as a 16-year-old girl was to volunteer at the Woodland Park Zoo. And I did that for 10 years. I would go down to Seattle every weekend, and I would help. First, I started in primates, which I was very lucky to do. And then I got to go to Australasia, and then from Australasia, which is like kangaroos, wallaroos, kookaburra birds, very interesting, tree kangaroos. Then from there, I helped open the tropical rainforest at the zoo, which is now feels so old that it's been there for so long. But I helped facilitate opening that program. And then I went to... what was the last place I was at? Oh, the elephants. Before now they're gone. So I facilitated a lot of different programs at the zoo, and I really loved it. Fell in love with animals at that time. Wanted to be a zoologist. Didn't happen. Became an HR director instead for a nonprofit during that time.
Kind of
and then,
the same thing.
Yeah, pretty much dealing with other animals and social services background. And then went to become a stay-at-home mom. And then I became a foster for N.O.A.H. And I've been with N.O.A.H for 6 years as a foster mom for kittens because I'm the crazy cat lady of N.O.A.H. I have 10 cats. We'll talk about that later. And then I was fortunate enough to apply for the position and get the position once it opened after a year of being a volunteer.
Okay. So going back to the zoo, what was that like working, volunteering, and like, I guess when you're 16, are you just mucking stalls?
Pretty much. It was a lot of poo and pee dealing with, but I also got to do fun stuff like drill logs where I could put peanut butter in them and raisins to give them an activity to do during the day, and they would be picking them out for hours. But that was really interesting. Also being able to facilitate throwing food on top of their crate cages, and just being part of the zoo, and that experience was really cool, especially at my age. Now it takes so much to get in to be a volunteer at the zoo.
Yeah.
I was very lucky at the time, again, my age, that they took people based on recommendations, and I had a recommendation from my science teacher at the time who advocated for me and said this would be a great student for you guys to have and facilitate a volunteer internship with. And so I was lucky enough to get that and then stay on for that 10-year time, which is part of my most favorite time in my life. It was a lot of learning and a lot of education. And I used to go into the schools and do docent work as well. And I went back and gave back to middle schools and high schools and was able to speak to them and advocate to them about animal welfare. And I do that now at N.O.A.H as well, about spaying and neutering and helping homeless dogs and cats. So it's kind of come full circle, which is really cool.
Yeah. Well, and we had a we had a membership to the zoo, I think last year, and so we'd go there all the time with the kids. And it's great when you have a membership because you get to go multiple times.
Yes,
and
the cost.
Well, and that, and then also like you can like plan this great day at the zoo, and the animals just didn't show up that day.
You got
So
it. They're all in the back where I got to see them.
Yeah.
We were feeding them too well.
Yeah.
Or they'd be sick. A lot of the times the animals would be in the back holding areas because they weren't feeling well, or they're possibly pregnant. So they're being, withheld from the public for those reasons, or they're stressed out. Multiple reasons are usually in the back, but I got to see them, which was awesome. Yeah. And I still got to go in and see them because I know people that are still there 30 some odd years later. So
very cool.
Yeah.
No, it must be incredible to see some of those animals up close.
Very
you
cool.
just never would dream of being able to do that.
No, it was an amazing opportunity. Like being able to touch a lemur, a ring-tailed lemur, and be that part of experience. Like I got to do that every weekend, and it was just normal. But it's not normal when you're a guest at the zoo. Yeah. Being able to be right there and doing it was amazing.
Yeah. Well, that's very cool.
Yeah, it was very cool.
So where do you think like your love for animals came from?
I don't know. I've always found comfort in animals. I think that there sometimes when I was going through hard times as a child, my parents got divorced when I was young. I got a cat when they got divorced, and that was my safe person, my safe animal. And it was a cat, and his name was Shamrock, and I love him very much. And he passed away obviously a long time ago, but he was my comfort. And I think it started there, that it was something and someone that would never let me down, never judge me, never do any of those things to me, but always just be there. And so that's why I think I loved animals. It started to love animals and continue, obviously, to love animals. And I'm sharing that with my daughter, and my husband loves animals just as much as I do. He's my high school sweetheart. We've been together for 26 years.
Oh, very cool. Congratulations.
Thank you. 20 years married next year. But I think we also encourage that with our daughter, Lily, who loves animals just as much as we do. So
yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, our it's funny, the cycle of animals and animal lovers and stuff like that. And I like growing up, I had a Cocker Spaniel that was like very dear to me, and he, but like a lot of my friends didn't really like him, and they always made fun of him. But I loved him. He was a great dog.
He was your friend.
Yeah. Eventually, we had to get his voice box removed because we moved to a neighborhood, an actual neighborhood, not just open property. So then he was like, air barking, but it was fun. So
yeah.
But yeah, so that was always a thing for me. But since then, like we haven't really had we have a cat, but we haven't had like a dog. I know. That's what my kids.
I was gonna say I have 9 that live inside and 1 feral on my property, and you can always have more than 1 cat.
Yeah, our kids keep talking about that.
Okay, come see me.
Yeah, but the one of my daughters is super, like, ever since she was little, like, so I've got twin girls who are 8, and one of them likes the idea of animals, but then when she gets around them, she freezes up. And then my other daughter has always loved animals, and just, like, doesn't matter what type of animal, and she's tried to save insects. She just loves.
She's like me.
Animals.
I saved lizards and all sorts of in my pond out back when I was growing up. Everything. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, so she's super
That's amazing.
into animals, and ever since she was little, has always been like, so
Very
can we get
cool.
a dog now? So we're getting closer to the age where she can take care of it.
Yes,
so
for sure.
At some
Come
point,
see me.
I'm sure that'll happen. But
have her visit me, and I'll help her out.
yeah, well, at least being able to go out and see dogs. And
Yes, for sure.
So no,
That's so
great.
cool, and it's nice to have kids have responsibility with animals too, and be able to take care of them. It's a nice thing to have them learn, take responsibility, have ownership over that.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, we had my youngest his name is Wesley, but we call him Beamer, and we got our cat pretty early on with him, and it was really funny. So our cat we named Gadito, and when he was a kitten, he was super playful, but like would just attack you when you weren't expecting it.
Nice.
So would go diving out of wherever and just grab onto you and freak you out. And then like if you try to pet him, he would immediately flip around and try and claw you, like, for playing.
That's like love bites.
Yeah. But like
I have one of those.
Our kids would be like, I don't know if I want to touch
scary.
him.
It's scary.
Well, Beamer at the time didn't know better, but somehow there's that connection, and like Beamer could go up to the cat and like completely grab the cat, grab his tail sometimes, and like things that like anyone else did, he would have just lost it and gone after you.
That's impressive.
Like
that's his person.
Yeah, but he would flip around, see it was him, and stop, and you would see him like dig his claws into the couch or whatever, and like not do anything. Yeah. But he would just sit there and like let Beamer like kind of crawl all over.
It's his person, because that's his person. He loves him. Yeah. That's his person.
So he's
really
like,
sweet. He's cool.
Yeah,
he's cool. Anybody else, I'll attack him, but he's cool. I have one of those cats.
Yeah. So it's just really funny, like that animals know, like, oh, this person doesn't know what they're doing, but they're pulling my tail.
Yep. Especially kids. There's some. I mean, animals take a lot of abuse sometimes. So especially with children.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned Shamrock as a special animal.
My Shamrock.
Do you have other animals that were specifically like influential as you were?
Well, at the zoo there was a tree kangaroo that I really loved named Blue. And Blue and I bonded. Blue was a girl. You wouldn't think that with the name Blue, but she, that was the color of her ear tag. They would tag them. They don't do that now anymore. They most likely chip instead now, but they used to ear tag back in the day when I was at the zoo in the 90s. And her tag was Blue, so her name was Blue. And Blue, I got to witness her have her baby. Blue, I witnessed her go through having mates and have them pass away. She was like an old friend. And when she passed away is actually when I left the zoo, because it was so hard for me to not have her there with that relationship. And it hit me so hard. There's a thing called compassion fatigue that a lot of animal welfare folks go through, including myself now. I take on special cases, hospice cases of kittens at the facility I work at the N.O.A.H Center. And it gets to you sometimes. And that at the zoo was my time to go. Yeah. And it felt like this was my parting thing for there. And I do miss it and I love it. And it's something that I would love to go back to one day, maybe when I retire, if I move close to Seattle, if I can afford it. But I wouldn't want to leave Camano. Hey, maybe we could have a ferry system, people, and it can go to Everett and then I'll be okay. It'd be closer. I would love a ferry. But it's something that impacted me so much. And still, like I said, the N.O.A.H Center, I will take hospice kittens. I have one right now named Luna that are heavy on my heart. She has a disease called FIP, which is something that is a death sentence for kittens. And it's something that she has, there's no test for, there's no cure from, but I'm trying to make her life as comfortable as possible in her final months, weeks, hours of her life. And that's what I take on as a mission now. So it's kind of continued on for me in a different aspect. I can't take home a zoo animal, even though I really wanted to take home the tamirs. Oh my gosh, if you see golden tamirs, they're little cute little monkeys. I probably could have tried to escape one at some point in my bag, but that I would have been caught. But it's nice to have some sort of still helping animals in some capacity, that I still have that aspect of what I'm doing today.
Yeah. Very cool. So let's turn to Noah. How long have you been involved with them again? And
For 6 years. So I started as a foster. I was a stay-at-home mom with Lily, and my husband was working, and I wanted to have baby kittens. I was like, what would be better? I can help. I have my daughter. She can get some kitten love. I can get some kitten love, and I'll volunteer. So I started volunteering for N.O.A.H 6 years ago, and then this position opened up because the person was leaving the position. And I said that would be a fantastic position for me, and I'm already a current volunteer, and I have human resource, but also volunteer management experience because I had volunteers at the last place I worked at, and they were like, sure, we would love to have you hired me, and I've been there for 5 years since. So I've been with N.O.A.H for a while. We take animals from partner shelters. They don't euthanize for space. That's our mission. So we don't take from the public like CASA does. They do public intake.
Okay.
We only take from partner shelters like CASA or like Skagit Humane or Everett Humane or Seattle Humane, so they don't euthanize healthy animals for space issues. So if they're getting to the point of taking public animals in, they have space issues, they would possibly euthanize. And in Washington State, we haven't euthanized an animal in the state for quite some time that's healthy and adoptable. And I think that we help with that overflow issue. And so that's one of our missions. And we also do low-income spay and neutering for the public. So if someone's low income, it's sometimes really hard for them to get an animal spay or neutered, and we provide that service. And we also provide feral cats for free, regardless of income level. So if someone has a free roaming cat on their property, like I did, I trapped him, which we rent traps at our facility. You just have to call and be able to rent a trap from us. You can catch that animal. We will alter them for free, ear tip them, rabies vaccinate them, and then you have to re-release them to where you caught them because, again, we can't take them. And they're feral cats. That's their home. That's their community. You don't want to take them from that, but they're not reproducing.
Right.
So you're helping control the pet population. And that will do for anybody, regardless of income level. But if Bill Gates called me and said he had lots of feral cats, I would like a donation because we're a nonprofit and we're only private grants and donations is how we stay open, and then mostly volunteer driven. So we have over 350 volunteers currently, and 100 of those are foster families like I started 6 years ago. So that's N.O.A.H in a nutshell.
Okay. So you got started with pet fostering, but then
Yes.
so you have that's a lot of volunteers that you have.
Yes, we do. And that's my job, is to Jenga puzzle them in the schedule because we are mostly volunteer driven. We have volunteer receptionists, volunteer clinical assistants. We have volunteers that clean and sanitize the facility every morning, every day. We are open every day. We're open from 11 to 6 during the week, 11 to 5 on weekends. But volunteers come in from 8 to 11 each of those days to make sure our facility looks amazing. And they're amazing volunteers, amazing people in our community, a lot from Camano and Stanwood, and I appreciate them every day. I am in awe of what a lot of them do for us.
Yeah, and so is N.O.A.H just based out of Stanwood, or
Yes.
is there other? Okay.
No, everyone asks us that. I wish we had different aspects of locations that we have, but no, we're just based out of Stanwood, Washington. We're right off the freeway. We look like a Cabela's, but we're not. We were here first. We've been here for 16 years. We've done over 110,000 spay and neuter surgeries since we've been open, and almost 40,000 adoptions. So we're really proud of those numbers too.
Yeah. So then, you end up partnering with organizations like CASA and,
Yes.
and all these other ones. I guess do you guys become like the in between, or the overflow, or
overflow? So
Okay.
like CASA and other shelters, they're doing so well at adoptions as well, which we do as well, is that they're able to take animals from out of state. As not just local, they're able to take, because they're contracted, CASA, through Island County to take public intake. So if someone finds a stray animal on Camano Island, they go to CASA. They can contact them. Hey, I found this animal. It might be an owned animal. It might not be an owned animal, but they take care of that. At N.O.A.H, we only take from partner shelters for that overflow issue. We can't take from the public, but we do take N.O.A.H animals back at any time for any reason. So if someone passed away that owned one of our adopted animals, we'll take them back. We just have to have space, and they need to contact us first before they just bring them to our facility, because we do have space issues as well. We adopt most of our animals out within a week of coming into our facility.
Oh, really? Okay.
And they all get spay and neutered before going home if that hadn't been done prior at the prior facility they were at. Most of our animals come from Washington State, probably about 70 to 80%. That other percent comes from high kill, 100% kill shelters from California, Texas, Hawaii, places that have major pet population issues. So we take from those as well.
Got it. Okay. Now, I might be getting these mixed up. Is NOAH an acronym, or is it?
It is.
Okay, so what
Northwest
is the
Organization of Animal Help. I always say I went to work at NOAA, and with my zoo background, people think I'm a marine biologist now or an oceanographer. But I say, no, I work for NOAA, and it stands for Northwest Organization of Animal Help. That is the acronym for us. So yes, it's an acronym. Nobody knows that. Now you know.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, there's a few of those around here.
Yes, there is.
You hear the acronym and you're like, okay, them. And
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
What does that stand for?
For real.
Yeah.
Like CASA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I also don't know what they stand for.
Camano Animal Shelter Association, I think. Look at me, and it's not even my place. I know it.
All right. And then what do you see as the future of NOAH then?
Currently, we're going to be building a new clinic. So we have space on our property, and we have been given a grant. We're very lucky to have applied for a grant and be able to be facilitated a grant. So on our property, we're going to be remodeling or tearing down one of our buildings. We have an event center currently where that is will go away, and we'll be building a new clinic. We are running out of space. We can do as many as 80 cat spay and neuters in a day for a double doctor day at our facility, and as many as 20 dogs. And at our location right now, I always think it's magic that they can even do it with the space that we have right now. We are outgrowing our facility. So, and we do need more space. If there's any billionaire or millionaires out there, please contact Paige at the N.O.A.H Center. We do need more space at our facility. We would love another pod so we can have another dog enclosure area to facilitate more animals coming into our shelter. The facility that's our clinic now, which is in our main building, will be repurposed into more of an isolation area for sick animals, because we do get sick animals that come from other states and also local, but we have to take care of them so they can get adopted. So we are running out of room in those areas as well. We just are busting at the seams, and we are a nonprofit, so we make it work. But it's always nice to have assistance and help as well. And like I said, we're private grants and donations, so we really appreciate funding and donations from the community, which our community is very supportive and gracious, which we so appreciate.
Yeah. So then, with it seemingly like there's a large population of animals and things like that are this is going on. Are there things that like within their own household and stuff like that families and people can be doing to help kind of with this overgrown of
spay and neuter your animals, number one. Number two, adopt from a shelter, because any shelter, again, is going to be taking animals from the streets, a local shelter like CASA, or adopting from us because we're also taking from those overflow shelters. Then we can just save another life. I think it's really important. And also, if you see a stray animal or you see an animal that's in your community, like I did, it took a long time to get the cat that was on my property, but I tried over and over again, and now I have him altered, and we took care of him. And he was not doing so hot when we got him into our facility. He had abscesses. He was a tom that would fight, so he was not neutered. So we were able to neuter him and alter him, and he looks great now. You wouldn't even know. You would think he's an owned cat. He probably was an owned cat, and somebody left him. But he's doing fantastic. I call him Orangey because he's orange. But we're going to make an outside enclosure for him, and he's probably going to still live on our property. But that's things folks can do locally, especially if you don't alter a stray animal. You're going to have a problem really quick with a lot of kitties. I mean, I love kitties, but you're going to have a lot of kitties on your property and in the community. So it's nice to help facilitate that as well, so you can stop the pet population issue.
Yeah, and what is the process like when you get stray dogs and stuff like that? What is your process to kind of or do you just do your own assessment of the animal to see where they fit best family-wise?
Yeah, good question. We actually temperament test them and medically assess every animal that comes into our facility. So cats do not get a behavior assessment because they're cats, but dogs do. And there's it's called a SAFER assessment that we do, and that SAFER assessment is by the ASPCA, and it's like a tag test, a food test, which we have a fake hand that will move the food away. So if the dog bites the hand, it's not biting our hand. But there's things like that we'll see their behavior-wise coming into the facility. Now, if we label them. So it's either a green dog, they pass the test 100%, or a blue dog where they failed a portion of the test. My dog that I have, my pug, is a blue dog. He bit the hand. He'd probably still bite the hand, including me, because he loves his food. He gets that from his mom. But we do that so we know that dog probably shouldn't go to a home with a young child, or that dog would do best with a child who's older. So for placement-wise, we're trying to facilitate that the best that we can. We also have a position at our place called a matchmaker, and the matchmakers know everything about the animal. They're the voice and advocate for the animal in our facility, because people will fall in love with a picture, and they're like, this is it. This is the one. And we go, nah, this dog doesn't like kids, and you have kids, or this dog doesn't like cats, and you have cats. And so we try to make it the best fit, and we'll try to redirect them. Hey, because we don't have an application process, which some places do. We have that matchmaker that technically is the application process. They're doing that matchmaking, like dating interview. Hey, what do you have in your home? What are you looking for? And they're help facilitating that. So we're very lucky we have that position as well.
Yeah. Well, and going back to the dog test, like we had a Cocker Spaniel. We had my Cocker Spaniel, and he, we found out after getting him that they're the number one face biters, and we're like, okay, I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know how much of that is true or whatever. Maybe it's just ratio wise.
Yes.
But I definitely got my face bitten a few times.
Breed to bite ratio.
Yeah, something like that. Because I was fairly young getting it. Not super young. I was probably like, what was I? 8 or 9 when I got him, and he was a little puppy. But yeah, there was definitely times where I was like, oh, I'll just play with him, and like I would move the food bowl, or I would pretend like I was going to eat it.
Oh,
and he
no. My pug would attack you, Chester.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I'm more scared of small dogs than big dogs. I love pit bulls. I am not scared of pit bulls, but you bring in a Chihuahua who's angry, and I am scared. Like, they are scared little things, furry little things that can come after you. So yeah, I am much more scared of a small dog than a big dog.
Yeah. So that was definitely like,
oh, that's funny.
That happened multiple times, but
I'm
eventually
sorry.
we learned. It was my fault. I shouldn't have stuck my face
right?
there. So he did the laser pointer thing. So
that's always fun.
Is one way to wear him out. We just open the dog yard up and then just like shine a light around.
That's awesome.
He go flying around the yard and
I love that though. I love dogs that do that. Not all of them do that, but that's very cool.
Yeah. No. So it was fun. So, okay. Lastly, what is what kind of obviously Shamrock was a big part of your cat obsession, but then like more recently, how did you end up getting to 10 cats?
Because I work at an animal shelter. It's like an alcoholic that works at a bar. I have a problem. I love cats, and I work at a shelter. So there you go. And if there's a sick one or a 3-legged one or a one-eyed one, they break your heart, especially when you foster them and you're like, oh, they fit so well in our family, and I don't want to have them go back, and it's just so easy to keep them. So this is what happens. So whenever I tell our foster families that they're going to foster, never take less than 2 ever, because you will keep them. This is why I have 9 cats. That is my advice to everybody. And especially if they're orange, then I'm done, because I have a type. 5 of the 10 are orange. So again, and Orangey, the feral, is orange. So they're like, of course you're going to keep them. So I treat them like one of my own. But it's really hard when they're in your home and to give them back. Now, if you have 5 or 6 at a time, you want them to go.
Yep.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And you're like, woo, just take them back. But again, when it's the one that had the leg removal and you're supposed to keep them for 2 weeks and they fit really well in your home, that was Paprika for me. She's still with me. So that's what happens. Yep. So I give advice and I hope it works, but everyone's like, they come to me and they're like, Paige, I foster failed. I'm like, no, you foster success. Welcome to getting closer to 10.
Yep.
So
well, that's what my my mom has been a huge animal lover, and they currently don't have animals because when she has them, like they're her main focus.
Yes.
Everything. And so we, during the time we had my cocker, I was moving out, but my sister found a stray. We never found out exactly what he was, but black lab something. And he was more muscular, it seemed like, than just a standard lab, and not the same temperance of a lab. But we fostered him. He was really like skittish when we first got him, and like did not like men. And so
that happens.
Something with that, and eventually he grew to like us. But he fell in love with my mom, and they were just going to keep him until they fed him because he was like bone skinny and
yes, that happens with what we get to.
Yeah, so they got him. He was back to health. And
she was in love then.
Yeah, so she went to bring him back to Casa and dropped him off, signed everything, went home, couldn't sleep that night, was talking to my dad all night, and my dad's like, just go get the dog then. She's like, okay, so she went and got the dog.
I adopted my first dog from Casa on the island because I moved out here 20 years ago, and it was before Noah was around. Noah was 16 years old, so 4 years before they even opened.
Yeah.
So I adopted my first lab chow something mix named Nellie, who's passed away since, but she was a fantastic dog that I got from Casa. I loved her very much. I remember what run she was in and everything still to this day. So
Yeah. And I know my wife, when we've talked about getting a dog, she's like, well, I want to find a mutt.
Yep.
Because she's just like...
There's a lot of places to go.
Yeah.
For that, for sure.
So, very cool. Well, I like to end every podcast with some rapid-fire questions.
Okay.
So the first one is, do you have a secret or lesser-known location on Camano Island that you like to hang out?
Mine isn't a secret. It's always Camano Beach. Always. Love it. Have loved it ever since I first moved to the island, but just love Camano Beach.
Yeah.
Hands down.
All right. Pretend you have a friend from coming into town from out of town. Got to change that question. How that's worded.
I didn't write it.
What would their first day look like here?
I would have them come during the Glass Quest because I ubi love the Glass Quest. My daughter is obsessed with it as well. I have still not found a ball, believe it or not. I'm like always a day late or $1 behind. I always see people get them and I'm like, oh, great. I could have gotten it, but I'm like 2 seconds too late. So I have purchased them because I'm that person.
Yeah.
But I will find one day and I will be super excited. But every year I look forward to it. And one of the gentlemen's, because I'm on all the Facebook Glass Quest posts, is doing a Halloween Glass Quest. So I'm super stoked about the Halloween special one that's coming out.
Yes.
Super excited.
Very cool.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that was... It's a
love
great
it.
event.
I love it so much. So
yeah.
fun. So great for the community, too, because it gets so many people from out of state come here during that time,
Yeah.
and it's bigger and bigger every year. I love it, love it, love it.
Yeah. And I got to interview Jessica McCready, who's one of the big proponents of getting that thing going.
Yes, it's
keeping it going.
amazing.
So.
Amazing job. I love it for our community.
Yeah.
I love going to where they do the glass blowing. It's fantastic. Just
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Who is the most interesting or fascinating person in this community that I should interview next?
So I'm going to be controversial and say Colton Harris, the Barefoot Bandit, because I have been on the island for 20 years, and 9 years in, he was around my neighborhood breaking into places. So I don't even know if his mom's still on the island. I don't know if he's even in Washington anymore, but I think he would be fascinating to interview because he is a Camano local, if nothing else.
Yep. Well, I'll work on that. I'll start
Okay, cool. Look for him. Look for the bare feet.
All right. And lastly, if you could have a message on a billboard right as you're driving on the island, what would that say?
Probably spay and neuter and adopt, don't shop. Those two things, because it's important to spay and neuter animals. Also, Casa's doing a free microchipping coming up soon. I don't have the date in front of me right now, but it's really important to microchip your animals as well so they can be reunited with you.
Yeah.
If they do go missing or any of those things happen, please look into that. We also microchip at our facility, but you have to come in during our business hours to facilitate that or during one of our vaccination clinics. But Casa's doing a free one coming up, so look into that for sure.
Okay. That's very cool. And it's neat. I mean, those things are so small and unobtrusive at this point.
They are. And anybody can read them. Any veterinarian can read them. Any shelter can read them and then get you reunited with an owner, which is amazing.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And Islanders, I will talk to you on the next one. Well, a big thank you to Paige for joining us on the podcast, and thank you for listening. If you haven't already, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. And for notes on this episode or previous episodes, go to CamanoCommons.com/podcast. That's CamanoCommons.com/podcast. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.